Dear audience, you are following the News of America Daily News. I'm editor John Tyson. Today's newsletter will cover the first topic to come up at the first presidential debate as the Supreme Court. Trump and Biden respectively give their personal opinion about the court power when they comes to the presidency. First of all, let us go to President Trump's speech.
Very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time, even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
With remarks about poll watchers and the Supreme Court, Trump steps up attempts to undermine confidence in the election. President Trump dramatically escalated his effort to undermine public confidence in the integrity of the election at the first presidential debate, urging his supporters to go into the polls to shadow Democrats, while suggesting he was counting on a conservative Supreme Court to determine the victor. Mr. Trump's statements came at the end of an ugly 90-minute debate, and at the end of a rambling string of false and familiar claims that Democrats are using mail-in voting to steal the election. The High Court needs to look at the ballots in the presidential election, Mr. Trump said. The extraordinary request came before most of the voting has even taken place. The president revived his 2016 rally cry that the election was already rigged, despite the absence of evidence of wrongdoing. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over, Mr. Trump said. Mr. Biden, who had previously told voters that Mr. Trump cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election, turned to the camera and said, he's just afraid of counting the votes. Mr. Trump's comments came just days after he told reporters at the White House that he would not commit to peacefully transferring power if he lost the election. Mr. Biden has said that he would abide by the results of the election once all the votes were counted. Later, Mr. Trump touted his support for efforts by conservative groups to congregate at polling places frequented by Democrats, a move that has been denounced as voter intimidation at a time when Mr. Biden seems to be widening his lead in several battleground states. I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it, said Mr. Trump. He went on to falsely accuse officials in Philadelphia of preventing his supporters from monitoring electoral activities this week. In fact, the officials turned some of Mr. Trump's backers away because they had not registered as poll workers. Today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia. Bad things, he said. It was merely the latest effort by Mr. Trump to cast doubt upon election results. He has for years made false claims about voter fraud. Even after he won the 2016 election, he said without evidence that millions of illegal votes were cast for Hillary Clinton. Mr. Trump even convened a White House commission on voter fraud, which disbanded in 2018 without having uncovered evidence of illegal votes. In recent months, as his standing in the polls has fallen, Mr. Trump has preemptively argued that Democratic elections officials are orchestrating a scheme to send extra mail ballots to like-minded voters. There is no evidence of this. Next, we will come to Mr. Biden's speech.
First of all, thank you for doing this, and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I'm not opposed to the justice, she seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
Democratic nominee Joe Biden declined to say if he would pack the Supreme Court during Tuesday's debate. And critics are irked that his refusal to answer isn't a bigger story for the mainstream media. Whatever position I take on that will become the issue. The American people should speak. You should go out and vote, Biden said. President Trump chimed in, repeating moderator Chris Wallace's question about if Biden would pack the court, but the former vice president didn't answer. Biden's refusal to answer the question seemed like it would be among the news-making moments from the debate. But it received little attention in the New York Times and Washington Post. Biden's refusal to comment on packing the Supreme Court, as other prominent Democrats are advocating, is monumental news as it goes to the Democrats' willingness and desire to unwind one of the fundamental norms of our judiciary and political system, a 9-member Supreme Court. Cornell Law School professor and media critic William A. Jacobson told Fox News. The Times briefly mentioned Biden's non-answer, when noting he refused to endorse some policies popular among progressives, like packing the Supreme Court and enacting the Green New Deal, in a recap of the debate. Meanwhile, the Post mentioned that Biden pointedly declined to attach himself to a push by liberals, upset over Judge Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court to abolish the filibuster, or pack the Supreme Court, in an article about takeaways from the debate. Neither paper had a splashy headline or full-length story about Biden's refusal to answer the question. Had the roles been reversed, and Trump refused to comment on Republican plans to pack the court, the New York Times and Washington Post would have screaming headlines. Jacobson said. The relative silence once again demonstrates that mainstream news coverage is focused on assisting the Biden campaign through what they don't. While the Times and Post downplayed Biden's refusal to answer the question, other members of the mainstream media pointed out that he dodged the simple question. CNN senior political commentator John Kasich, a Republican who supports Biden, even felt the Democratic nominee should have been more definitive. I thought he had a very weak answer in terms of packing the court or whatever, Kasich said Wednesday when analyzing Biden's performance. Democratic vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris echoed her running mate and also sidestepped a pair of questions immediately following the debate. CBS News' John Dickerson confronted Harris, saying Biden's non-answer sounded like a straight-up dodge, and asked why he refuses to talk about it. Well, I think he's very clear, John, which is he is focused, as we all should be, on the next 35 days, Harris said. He is focused on CNN's Jake Tapper also confronted Harris on the idea of adding seats to the Supreme Court, flatly asking if it's an idea she's willing to think about. But Biden's running mate was non-committal once again. We are 35 days away from an election. Probably the most important election of our lifetime and our children's lifetime. And there is nothing about these next 35 days that Joe or I will take for granted. The focus right now is on reminding people that we have this election that is very much in play. We are in the midst of an election. Harris said. The Biden campaign directed Fox News to a quote the Democratic nominee gave to reporters earlier this week when asked if Biden plans on informing the American people about his intentions for the Supreme Court prior to Election Day. I know you're gonna be upset with my answer, but what I'm not gonna do is play the Trump game, which is a good game he plays. Take your eye off the issue before us. If I were to say yes or no to that, that becomes a big issue. That's the headline here, Biden told reporters on Sunday when asked if he would consider expanding the Supreme Court. Conservative strategist Chris Barron feels that Biden is simply avoiding the question because he doesn't want to lose supporters who disagree with whatever answer he gives. Frankly, Democrats themselves have repeatedly claimed that there is no bigger issue than the future of the Supreme Court. By their very own standard, could there be any issue more important than whether or not Joe Biden supports packing the court? The truth is that the mainstream media is giving Biden a pass because they know, like Biden's campaign knows, that if he says he supports it he turns off moderates and as he says he opposes it he turns off liberals. Others took to Twitter with thoughts on Biden's refusal to answer. Next, we will go to the debates of President Trump and Mr. Biden about Supreme Court.
Right. There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the 100 million people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very happy with.
That's simply not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist. You're going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
White.
one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any, and one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
but
and it's not what your party has said.
That is simply
your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party wants to go socialist medicine.
My party is
and
me.
socialist
right
healthcare.
Now, I am
and
the
they're going to dominate
party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the Democratic Party is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act?
Joe, you've had 308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me about this.
I'm happy to talk about this.
And if you were here, it wouldn't be 200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You didn't want me to ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
gentlemen,
Europe, which was heavily infected. You would have been much later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr. President.
You're talking about 2 million people.
You're not
Mr. President, as the moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already begun.
You don't know it's on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
why is it on the ballot? It's not on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the court.
I don't think so.
In the court. Well,
there's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you just be quiet for a minute?
And you don't know her view on Roe v. Wade. You don't know her view.
Well, all right. Let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
I got rid of the individual mandate.
I'm going to give you an opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big chunk of Obamacare. That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst part of Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris, that was the worst part of Obamacare.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we will protect people with
President, I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Fine. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something, that there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care. All of the things that we've done, insulin. I give you an example, insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people. The cost, I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because they pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say, this is open discussion.
No,
let me
but
ask
this
you
is
about,
big.
This is
big stuff.
Sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
Well, if I can ask you the question, it will
not
end.
What your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option, number one.
Joe, you agreed with Bernie Sanders, who's far left, on the manifesto, we call it, and that gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you saying
I'm not
you
going to
didn't
listen
agree?
to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days early. You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do is
Super Tuesday. You got very lucky.
Here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to make sure, because here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just want to make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
You graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make sure.
Mr. President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
You picked
You'd be surprised.
the wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him.
There is no manifesto, number one.
Please let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan
Folks,
that's absolutely agreed
folks, do you have any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you
this
have
clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
Do you
Mr.
have any
President.
do?
socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well,
President.
I tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care. Because he, in fact, already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. take it away.
No, I want to give them better health care at a much lower price because
and by the way, he doesn't know how.
Good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
Fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a plan.
Fixed it to an extent.
He has never done a
as
single
you might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen, you realize if you're both speaking at the same time,
and it's too expensive.
Let the president. Go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? Yeah. If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what
and I just had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive. Okay. Premiums are too high, and it doesn't work. So we do want to get rid of it. Chris, we want to get rid of it.
I understand it, sir, but I have to give you roughly equal time. Good. Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care.
Of course we do.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
Through that we have seen the views of President Trump and Mr. Biden about the Supreme Court. Everyone has a different set of strengths and weaknesses. But from our perspective, both are flawed. Mr. Biden has left out quite a few important questions and is critical. President Trump is strong in individualism and at times makes inaccurate points. What about your view? Please comment below so we can synthesize and make more useful videos. Please like and subscribe to follow the latest daily news. Don't forget to comment your opinion on this newsletter. Thank you for your time. Goodbye and see you in the next news.